Welcome everyone. Our first step is to create a new game. So let's go over here to the right hand side and create new game. We're going to create a blank new template with 3D and we can just call this Hunt Gather 3D Edition. We'll hit create. Once we're in, the first thing we want to do is start setting up some of the settings and configuration. So let's do that. Let's head over to our configurations at the editor over here. And the first thing we'll do is take a look at the engine version and see if everything is right. Okay, so for our client physics engine, we're going to make sure that this is on Rapier 3. We're going to scroll down a little bit and everything looks pretty decent, but we want gravity, so let's add some gravity. So we're going to do negative 100 because we want our guy to, well, fall downwards, right? All right, let's go to the rendering now and let's take a look. Okay. Sorry, before we head to our rendering, let's make sure we go over here and change to 3.003. There we go. And let's save and close before we go on to the rendering. And make sure we go to the editor. And here we go. Now in here, we're going to make sure the rendering filter is on smooth. And go to the shadow and keep it either low or simple. You don't really want high because that might deter our game a little bit. Okay, now the fun part is the camera settings. Now for the default zoom, we're going to do 5. The pitch is kind of like the angle. So you can, you're more than welcome to try the, or look at the description here, but we're going to be doing 90. And then here we're going to do 0, so that's already good. Here we're going to do 3, just to make it a little faster. And that's good. So let's save and close and then publish. Okay, so now we have our game here. Play, but obviously we can't move. So this is pretty much it for our configuration. So the last thing we want to do to make sure our player is kind of proper and right, because the camera is not exactly what we want to head over to the homey and we want to change 2 things first to set this up. The first will be the cell sheet, right? So this guy, not exactly what we want. So let's upload our model. Let's go to upload. Go to upload from computer and upload our 3D character. All right, so here you go. I've uploaded my character. Now, if you're wondering, these assets, all the assets related to this series will be down in the description below. So go download them if you haven't already. And once we've uploaded our character, we'll just hit submit and we have our new character. Now, the more important part is the camera. This is where we're going to enable the locker point or the pointer lock. So we can actually have our mouse kind of locked in. And then what we'll do is we're going to change the pitch kind of right around here. You can kind of play around with this number or just kind of play around with this dragging. And then here for the Z, we're going to do 2 so it's not right on top of us. We'll hit save and apply and we'll have to republish here. And here we go. We now have our camera where we can rotate around him. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, it's a little buggy because I have my highlighter on my mouse, but that's okay. But if you guys don't have a highlighter, your mouse should kind of look as if it's stuck in the middle. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now rotate relatively smoothly, but we'll work on rotating and movement in the next part. All right, so the next step, if we want to actually make our player move, well, we need to go to the editor or sorry, what am I doing? Going to the editor. We need to go to our player, open up our player, controls, head down to the client side predicted movement and simply disable this. Okay, and then also in the control scheme, we simply need to change this to relative to units rotation. Let's save and reinitialize here. And now we have our player rotate on our mouse, which is awesome, right? So that's pretty much it for the rotation of our player. And let's go to the next section. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is head over to our homey back again, and we're going to set up the animations. Now, setting up animations in this model is actually very easy because all we need to do is add a new animation here, and we can actually drop this here, and we can see we have some already. Now, here we can use, let's say, walk, and rename this to move, and we can create one more, and we're actually not going to create one. We're going to use the use one. So this is the use, the use, and we're going to use the attack animation. So when we use, lose an item, we're going to attack. Now the loop will do infinite, infinite, and then duration will do 0.5, and we'll put this on true. Now that we've done that, we now want to create a variable that will tell us if we're shooting or if we're actually using an item. What we'll do is head over to the environments and we'll go to the entity variables, add new, go to key, and we'll say is shooting. This will be a Boolean. Go to save. Actually, by default, we'll set this to false. And yeah, there we go. It already saved. So we'll close. Now in our start using item, we're actually going to change this to just use item. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to add a if statement. And if we're going to do a Boolean comparison. So the right-hand side will be false. But the left, we're going to change this to, well, we want to essentially get our variable, right? So we'll say variable and say entity variable. So we want to say this entity, right? The variable we're looking for is shooting. So if the is shooting variable is false, then we can use the item. So what we can do here is say set variable. So we'll say set variable is shooting of this entity as true. So once we're using this item, we will set this to true. So that way we don't repeatedly get into this if statement, right? Okay, now we can move this inside of here and we'll do one more thing, which is going to be play the animation. We'll say play entities animation. We'll say this entities, and then here we'll say the use animation. Okay, so we can do this first, and that's basically it. Now, we do need to kind of do similar thing though in the stop using. So we'll actually just copy this, paste, but the stop using, we're going to put this in the else do. And we're going to change this to true. Here we go. So if this is true, we're going to stop doing stuff. So what we need to do is instead of this, let's actually just delete these guys. We'll keep that, but we'll change this to false. We'll set it back to false. And then here we can just remove this. But then another thing we'll need to do is stop animation. We'll stop playing entities animation. We'll say this entity of the animation type use. There we go. So we'll stop the animation that we're currently playing once we're finished using the item. And then what we can do is that the variable is shooting, and we will stop using the item. There we go. That's it. So now we are able to stop using the item, but we need to make sure that these scripts are actually being applied. So let's make sure we save and apply here. And let's head over to the controls for our homie. Now in here, this is where the use item is happening, right? So here inside of these guys, you can see that it's going to run the script use item. Then on key release, it's going to stop using the item. So we should now be able to give this a try. Let's publish. Okay, now you can see when I attack, we're attacking, but it never stops. Now what's happening is we essentially never really set the new animation. So let's do that, right? So here, maybe we can just copy this guy, the play, and in the stop at the bottom, we will paste, and instead of playing the use, we'll play the default. The default, by the way, you need to set that as well. So make sure you go into here, go to the default and select the idle. All right. So let's select that. We'll hit republish. All right. And here we go. We now have an attack that only happens once, but we do need to make sure we only set the loop count to 1. That was my mistake. We need to make sure that it's not infinite. Otherwise, it'll obviously just silly. And yeah, there we go. We now have an attack. All right. That's it for this video. In the next video, we will take a look at probably AI and adding weapons and stuff and HP bars. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video and